Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. My name is Mama Alif Amshah, Muhammad Fazil, and today I will present about basic chromatography, the application of chromatography in food industry. In my presentation, the content is firstly introduction of basic chromatography, secondly is theory of basic chromatography, thirdly is methodology, next is example for result, and lastly is conclusion. And now I start with the introduction of the basic chromatography. Chromatography is a method by which a mixture is separated by distributing its component between two pairs. The stationary paste remains fixed in place while the mobile paste carries the component of the mixture through the medium being used. Chromatography is an important biophysical technique that enables the separation, identification, and purification of the component of a mixture for qualitative and quantitative analysis. Chromatography is based on the concept of separating molecules in a mixture added to the ground or solid and liquid stationary state when traveling with the air of a mobile paste. For the introduction of paper chromatography is a technique which is used to separate low molecular mass compound based on their distribution between stationary paste and mobile paste. Due to its low cost and availability of various protocols for the separation of compound, paper chromatography is considered a powerful analytical tool. It is now primarily used as a teaching tool, having been replaced in the laboratory by other chromatography methods such as thin layer chromatography (TLC). The main advantage that paper chromatography offers are simplicity, low cost, and unattended hassle-free operation. It can be run in various modes, and quantitation may be achieved without the use of expensive instrumentation. Now, the basic theory of paper chromatography. Chromatography technique that use paper sheet or strip as the sorbent, being the stationary paste through which a solution is made to pass, is called paper chromatography. It is an inexpensive method of separating dissolved chemical substance by their different migration rates across the sheet of paper. The theory behind the paper chromatography is that the least soluble particles do not move further on the filter paper, but the most soluble particles move further. The interaction between the three components with the solvent, solid, paste, and mixture to be separate is involved in this technique. Saturating the atmosphere in the beaker with vapor stop the solvent from evaporating as it rises up the paper. As the solvent slowly travel up the paper, the different components of the ink mixture travel at different rates, and the mixture are separated into different color spots. For the methodology, this is the diagram of the paper chromatography methodology. Firstly is draw a line parallel to the long dimension about 2 cm from the edge of the filter paper. Next, draw 4 small X on the line beginning about 3 cm from the edge of the paper and about equal distance from each other. Next, put 70 ml of the developing solvent in a clean, dry 800 ml beaker and cover it with plastic wrap held in place by a rubber band. Lay the filter paper on a clean paper or table by using microcapillary. Place a tiny spot of each of the food color on the X mark on the color per mark. Label in with a pencil near each mark with appropriate paper symbol. Allow the spot dry by gently waving the paper in the air. After the spot have dry, staple the edge of the paper together, leaving a gap so that the edge do not quite meet. Put the paper cylinder in the beaker containing developing solvent. The paper does not touch the wall of the beaker. Make sure the spot of the dye must be above the surface of the solvent in the beaker. Immediately seal the beaker with plastic wrap and allow the solvent to rise up in the paper. Observe the position of the solvent from even every few minutes. Also observe how the original spot begin to spread into a band of color as they move up. When the solvent front have rise up to about 2 cm from the top of paper, remove the paper from the beaker and immediately mark the solvent from with a pencil before the solvent evaporates. After the paper has dried, measure the distance travel of the spot from the original line and also the distance traveled by solvent for each of the food color. Calculate and record the RF value and every color spot. For each of the food color, describe the number of components you find and their color. For the example of result, make the table like this for fill our result. Food color of spot, distance traveled by spot, distance traveled by solvent front, and RF value. What is RF value formula? To calculate the retention factor, divide the distance traveled by the chemical of interest by the distance from the baseline to the solvent front. The following expression can be used to calculate RF value. RF equal to distance traveled by the substance from this reference line in cm over distance traveled by the solvent from reference line in cm. For the conclusion, chromatography is a process for separating components of a mixture. To get the process started, the mixture is dissolved in a substance called the mobile paste, which carries it through a second substance called the stationary paste. A paper chromatogram can also be used to identify substance by comparing them with no substance. Two substances are likely to be the same if they produce the same number of spots, and this match in color. The spot travel the same distance up the paper. Paper chromatography is used as a qualitative analytical chemistry technique for identifying and separating color mixture like pigment. It is used in scientific study to identify unknown organic and inorganic compound for a mixture. So for reference, I have 10 reference here. That's all. Thank you.